Hey folks, thanks for coming over to Capitalism for Good. This is a part of a larger project where I am on a mission to interview 100 business leaders about the positive impact that they have on their internal and external communities. It is through these interviews that we will dig into how we can use the ways in which we make and spend our dollars in order to benefit the greater good. Folks, today we have the first duo of the series, which really kind of made me just question and rethink and adjust the messaging of this, because now it's not really 100 business leaders that I'm interviewing, it's 100 interviews with business leaders. It is such a small thing, but it was worth it to really think about it and be intentional and to be able to interview both of these guys together. It is Jeff and Randy Vines. They are co-owners of STL Style and also identical twins. And STL Style might be best known for their brick and mortar store, which is known locally as STL Style House, which also here is a plug to watch the video version either on Patreon or on YouTube, because you can see their logo in the shop in the background. But they also do so much more under the umbrella of their company. You can check them out for their custom work, collaboration with brands, places like Washington University, STL Public Radio. They do public speaking, tours for school groups, relocation groups, all the things that uplift STL. They also hold special events, which you can see on their website. I'll put links to the website, also their Facebook and their Instagram page in the show notes. That way you can find them and see all of the gajillion things that they have going on within the city of St. Louis. And also, just a tiny quick side note here, if you've got kids, just note that there are a couple moments of some colorful language. I left those in because it really matches their gritty style, which seems to match St. Louis City. It's not a ton by any means, but it is there. And I stand by that it shows their passion for the community, which, let's talk about that. There is so much pride for the city of St. Louis, for their community, for the people around them, for like everything about this, which I think just serves as this natural platform for a t-shirt company that's grown into so much more, that's focused on St. Louis and being proud of St. Louis and uplifting St. Louis. And they've got all of these fun different designs and things that are going on. But also, I think one of the things that truly stands out with them are things like the way that they have built their business and their brand. Things like, and this is a spoiler alert for the things that they'll talk about, like allowing their employees to leverage their skills and talents within the shop that are beyond the scope of the brand. So I'm talking things like hosting drag nights, hosting open mic nights, having other events. There's a photographer that they have on staff that they've been known to use the shop for the shoots that are outside of the brand. Giving their employees keys to the store indefinitely, even though they're no longer employees of the store. It's something that you can tell builds ownership and trust, and it just has a really cool undertone to all of it. Something that I would have never in a million years imagined, but I will tell you that I found them, much like a few of the other folks that I'll talk to here on the project, but I found them through a Reddit post asking for who are the companies and the businesses within your city that you're proud of, that don't make the news for doing shady things, just the folks that are based in your community that are really doing cool things. And STL Style, it quickly popped up, and then there were tons of other little responses that followed. Stop there every time I visit home. Love what they're doing with the city and the pride. They're the epitome of St. Louis. Like, it's really cool to see people really rally around a business like that. And seriously, listening to the two of them, it is absolutely no surprise that they have built a good reputation. And I think listening to them is a great learning opportunity in how you build a good reputation. You trust the people around them, you give them ownership and value, you let them do what they do best. And also at the end of the day, in trying to think about it and extrapolate some key themes and ideas and try to figure out like what's their secret, yeah, I don't know. Is it being a twin and learning from each other? Is it knowing and loving your community? Is it their background in public access TV? Is it their leadership style? Is it being so well spoken that while I've been working on the write ups for this project, I really just keep finding myself wanting to quote them? You tell me. I don't know. But with that being said, I'll just let you listen to them tell you what they are all about. Enjoy. Here, my first question, the where I want you guys to start, if you're okay with it, is kind of, I haven't figured out a non-cheesy way to say this. Like, an overview of your career journey of what led you to St. Louis style. Or actually, I should say first, is do you guys call it St. Louis style or STL style?
It's really STL style, and
Okay.
the physical location, our shop, is known locally as STL Style House. Um,
Okay.
that's
And it's actually an interesting part of the whole thing is we really thought of our logo before we thought of a name. So it kind of became STL style by default because that's what people started calling it, and then we started calling it that. But we had originally envisioned, you know, our logo with the S, T, and L in the word style emphasized. And our tagline that we had originally thought of way back was we put the STL back in style or something like that.
Yeah.
So we never really had a name. It just became that.
it became that. We just
Yeah.
assumed the name that was
Mhm.
given to us. So yeah, but it's our STL Style is the name of kind of our overarching business, which
Our
is
brand. Yeah.
a multi-pronged business with several different revenue channels, and we do all kinds of things. And then STL Style House is the physical name of the space.
Okay. And then is it your logo that is behind you on
It
the
is.
test?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind
And
of flipped now, but yeah, you see
Oh yeah.
the
yeah.
ST and L.
Yeah. I
So yeah,
see what you're
and
talking
that's
about.
we're too lazy to change it. So
I like it.
um
It fits, and if people recognize it, that's what matters.
yeah,
Yep.
definitely. But to answer your question about our journey or what inspired this
Yeah.
uh, the two of us, we're identical twins. We grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis. We're really close with our parents, have an awesome group of friends. Never really marched to a mainstream beat, in the conventional sense. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not any kind of social outcasts or weirdos, but we always were driven by our passions. And we found like unique interests in all kinds of things over the years. And the one kind of unwavering devotion we have is that to our city, to St. Louis. We just became enamored from a very young age. When our grandparents would tell us stories about living in the city back in its heyday, and then our dad growing up in the city and riding on the streetcars to the movies and bowling alleys and things. It was just such a cool, captivating image of our hometown that a
Yeah.
lot of suburban kids at that time just they can't fully appreciate it because
Yeah.
our lifestyle was so different. But we knew the city was cool. We knew it told a great story, and we always wanted to kind of like just soak it up, and promote St. Louis's greatness to the rest of the world. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'll let you
Yeah.
talk,
Well,
so I'm not.
and in high school, we actually produced a public access TV show on city cable in the city of St. Louis. So
Yeah.
really that kind of sealed our love of the city because we had a reason to be here all the time and not just in the city but interviewing people on the streets and interacting with city people and doing city things, which was such a distinct difference from what our peers were doing hanging out at Denny's, in Creve Coeur, like in West County suburbs of St. Louis. So
Yeah.
And we would ride the bus around to different neighborhoods and explore just the city, and we just became enamored with it, and realized that we don't really have to move out of town to get this city experience that we really relish. And
And fast forward, we love traveling. We're not, it's not like we're just St. Louis geeks and we're only St. Louis and that's it. We love old cities with problems. We old legacy cities that have maybe fallen from grace, lost a little luster, but still pack a punch, tell a great story, are filled with culture and all kinds of like great amenities that would be that you'd expect from any great city. And St. Louis has it in spades. And throughout our time, like we're producing the TV show and, just traveling to other cities that we love and taking photos and riding public transit, we realized St. Louis at that time did not have any. We wanted to represent the city in a cool, funky way that we saw, that we felt about it. And there weren't any cool t-shirts that we would have bought for ourselves. So at that time, I mean, nothing that really like stood out. So we just decided that, hey, we're gonna do it ourselves. And we enlisted the help of a graphic designer friend of ours. And for months and months, really at the beginning, we were just printing shirts after hours on her kitchen table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess since this is kind of a business related uh, episode, we
Yeah.
should talk about. I mean, we definitely do have experience in
In the
the
real
real
world.
world working environment. Different. We haven't always worked together. I mean, I waited tables for a while when I was still figuring out what I wanted to do, and then I got a job at a local bowling shirt company. Actually, one of the biggest at the time in the country was right here in St. Louis. So that's really how I learned the t-shirt business, and I developed relationships with vendors, and I was the trade show manager, so I would go all over to different trade shows all around the country and just see what the trending products were and things like that. It really taught me everything I know, and had no idea that I would ever bring this experience into our own business. I just thought what we do on the side with STL
Mhm.
Style was for fun. But I lost my job abruptly in 2010 and
Mm.
suddenly had to figure out what I wanted to do. And just kept circling back to the one thing that never wavered, and it was our passion for this and to be part of the city that we love, in a really cool neighborhood. And so it just took on a life of its own. And really, what gave us the momentum to really do this full time was I had a customer call me who I used to help at the bowling shirt company, and
Yeah.
he had a need for t-shirts for his, I think it was for a play in at the high school he taught at. And
Mhm.
he said, I want to order from you though. And that changed everything.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we just hit the ground running and never looked back.
I mean, there were a lot of steps along the way to get
Yeah.
there.
And missteps.
Yeah, a lot of missteps and a lot of just like, luck and happenstance. But I don't know. We'll let you steer the conversation. However much you want to know, we'll tell you.
I want to know all of it. Can we start with, okay, how old were you when you got that phone call to be like, I want you to do these t-shirts?
Well,
Well, 2010, it was what, 15 years ago.
yeah, but but
So,
uh, but it's important to note that we
Yeah.
really started doing this stuff as a sideline hobby for
oh
in
yeah.
2001.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
that's when we really that's
When we
when
graduated from college.
right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
STL Style was born in 2001 officially, but it was really just a moonlighting thing.
or we would just do like a street
Yeah.
fair, street festival or something here and there, but
Yeah.
never full time.
But it was during that time of doing it on the side that we were really we realized it was what we were putting out there was resonating with a big audience. It coincided with this big movement back to the city in the late 90s, early 2000s when St. Louis had fallen on really hard times, and there was this very, very fervent and enthusiastic group of people who
Yeah.
wanted to get together and reclaim the city and just like say, we love city living, we embrace it.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate the city and all that makes it great. So we had kind of a circle jerk, for lack of a better term, of an audience that loved the stuff we were creating.
And at the
Yeah.
time, I mean, there was nothing, no other city-centric businesses doing
Okay.
shirts or anything else besides what you would find at Lambert Airport or Union Station or one of the tourist gift shops.
Right. Yeah.
And it just wasn't what the way that we wanted
Yeah.
to portray the city.
And it's very important to note that
Yeah.
our initial inspiration, we really wanted to reach the local audience. We wanted to reach St. Louisans, whether they lived here or somewhere else. There are our whole brand and our identity is all about kind of really targeting the St. Louis market, making people proud of their hometown, no matter where they live, and giving them an easy way to connect with it and represent it.
Yeah.
And over time, obviously, we evolved to include a lot more than just super local centric stuff. We have stuff that appeals to tourists or people who may have no connection, but
Hmm.
we remain kind of committed to that core identity where it's really important. If you make every St. Louisan the best ambassador for their city, give them a sense of pride, they wear it around, it gives them a sense of, belonging, and it's also a great billboard for the
Yeah.
city.
Yep.
Yeah. So like I said, I grew up in the Kansas City suburbs, and when I first started this project, I of course started it, my roots started where I knew people, had already kind of like vetted and trusted. So early on in this project, I'm still pretty early on, but very early days, I interviewed two business leaders in Kansas City of kind of, I would say, a comparable, maybe potentially business. One is Charlie Hustle, the other is Made in Kansas City or Made in KC.
Familiar with
And something that we talked about with both Greg and Keith there was like Kansas City as a brand and like using businesses to like uplift the community as an entire whole. And so something I was thinking about when I was like getting ready to talk to you guys is like one, kind of like the healthy competition of that rivalry between Kansas City and St. Louis, and also just like what your take is on kind of where business fits in that like uplifting and shining a spotlight on your city as a brand or as a whole, as a community.
Sure. Oh, wow.
great
That's
question.
that's those are great questions, and it's big.
Yeah.
But I would say that your second part of your question is probably more immediate to answer. That
Yeah.
the importance of small business to any city. It really, if COVID did nothing else, it definitely kind of hit the reset button, made people realize how critically important these establishments are to not only just the amenities that we rely on and entertainment and this and that, but just like the core of our identity as a community,
They
as a city.
define the city and distinguish St. Louis or Kansas City from any other place.
Right.
And
And we realized, and everyone realized at the same time, that these things can go away in a heart, with no warning.
Mhm.
And you better not take any of these small businesses for granted. The cornerstones of what makes neighborhoods and cities tick,
Yeah.
that without them, it's really just a blandness and nothingness, and every city's the same. So I think, and we have said this long before COVID too, that and I stand by this. St. Louis is the most supportive city. They support its own. It supports its own more than any other city. And I'm saying that with bias, but also some level of objectivity because
Yeah.
we know a lot of people in other cities doing cool things, and there seems to be a unique brand of civic support in St. Louis. They really, really care, and they come all out for small business. Now more, especially since COVID.
well, I think, and also I think part of the reasons that factor into that is that, St. Louis, the city of St. Louis is, by all accounts, a shell of what it was in 1950 when there were almost a million people in the city limits. It's a highly suburbanized region now. So all the big box stuff you'll find out in the suburbs, but St. Louis City is pretty protected and insulated from
Yeah.
that generica that that has kind of overtaken a lot of the most hot popular cities. St. Louis is still pretty
Raw,
untouched and
unfiltered.
independent. Um, fiercely independent, which gives a lot of character to the city.
And
And
I think our brand in particular, the reason we've been around for 15 years in a brick and mortar against all odds and against ourselves even and our own knowledge and expertise. And our brand in particular, it's a brand that celebrates that focuses on the uniqueness and distinctiveness of the city and its neighborhoods, its inside jokes, the colloquial references, landmarks, architecture, history, all of those elements kind of combined in STL style. And we kind of bring them to the world. And that's when people are really, want to go all out and appreciate where they live and hometown pride. This is kind of the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, that hometown pride is, I keep smiling and like kind of chuckling to myself because, again, growing up in Missouri, I went to school at Missouri State down in Springfield and have so many very close friends that are born and raised St. Louis folks. And like when you're talking about that strong pride and like the joy and love of St. Louis, I'm like, the amount of times that I have heard about like St. Louis pizza is better than any other kind of pizza, or hockey team is better than any other like there is like a true, it down to like your accents, the things, the
Yeah.
best sandwiches in the world, like St. Louis people in a sweeping generalization
It's
love
true.
St. Louis.
You're right, and it's really
Yeah.
the irony about it is that we can all also be our worst enemies and biggest critics. We're
Oh,
a self-deprecating city for
yeah.
sure. Our humor some really embodies a lot of that too. But
Yeah.
the thing about St. Louis is that we can talk shit about our city to each other and ourselves,
Yeah.
but as soon as someone from outside of St. Louis starts talking,
Uh-huh.
that's when we have something to say about it. So.
Yeah.
It's one of those things,
Well, yeah, and
personality
I
thing.
think the fervent pride that you talked about is really a result of St. Louis's image just being totally shitty nationally. It's not looked upon
Yeah.
as a city that anyone wants to be in or move to in the eyes of the country,
And
I think.
popular perception.
But usually that's just because they're not exposed. They don't know. They don't see the real city. And I'll tell you, this kind of leads me into another aspect of our business that's really important to us.
Yeah.
Cherokee Street, you may or may not be familiar with it, but it's really kind of off the tourist radar. It is
Mm.
in South St. Louis. It was an old commercial district that kind of was the downtown of the South Side in its heyday. And then with the advent of malls and cars and highways, it just kind of languished and declined, but it's all still here. The physical built environment is still here.
Yeah.
We felt very strongly about finding a location for our shop to become a destination to expose people, maybe from the suburbs or anywhere else,
Yeah.
to the real St. Louis, to have them discover a city, a neighborhood that they would otherwise may not have any reason to come to,
Yeah.
and then to change
Perception.
perceptions that way, just experientially, and it works. And we, I mean, we are not alone on Cherokee Street by any means. We're not the first to recultivate this street by any means, but there is a critical mass of really cool things happening here, and to see people's impressions change and for them to tell us is the biggest satisfaction we can ask for, because we've had some people over the years, families and minivans pull up. They're kind of uneasy at first, not sure what to
Mm.
expect. And then the
Hmm.
next weekend, we see them eating outside at one of the taquerias, because their comfort level has changed now that they've actually seen what St. Louis is.
Yep. And I mean, especially to Cherokee Street in particular, because it really is so well preserved structurally and physically. The neighborhood is there and it's intact. It's still a densely populated neighborhood, extremely diverse, and it really does have all the elements that inspire us about the city, all in one neighborhood. And that's just that. It was a no-brainer. So and it's also cheap. They're
Mhm.
cheap. That's a huge component of why we're still here, is because
Yeah.
we can afford to still be here. And
Yeah.
we couldn't say that for if we had opened in a much more established neighborhood. So,
Yeah. Can we talk about that? So obviously the price and location and those kinds of things helps with like longevity, stability, keeping those prices down so it's affordable so you can stay there. But you've also talked about how the city has changed and we've mentioned COVID. I imagine the rise in popularity of e-commerce has changed in probably all different kinds of ways. Can you talk about how things are different today than they have been when you first started, or like maybe some ups and downs along the way with that?
I'll mention one thing that's changed drastically. When
Yeah.
we opened and when we started our brand, we were the only St. Louis oriented apparel
Yeah.
company in town. Now it's a crowded field. I mean, I can think of at least maybe five or
Yeah.
six off the top of my head, and there's probably more. So that's changed.
and
So,
they're all younger with
so
more energy and new ideas,
yeah.
and they're more social media savvy than we are. So
Yeah.
we'll
So
see.
that's a challenge, I would say.
We're evolving. We got to
Yeah.
keep up with the
I
times
mean,
too.
15 years ago we were young and single. Now we have families, and we're in a way feel like we're aging out a little bit of the hip retail scene. But we're still going strong. So
I mean, we're
we,
not going anywhere, but we can never rest on our laurels. Also at the beginning, it was before small businesses really capitalized on like Instagram, and we had a Facebook page, but it wasn't like a central component of our business or anything like. It was just more for fun and like posting, funny
Right.
little trivia things or whatever we did. But it has since those days, it has those social media has become,
Yeah.
absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the most challenging parts of it, I think, for us to stay relevant, stay current, is you really have to be, on top of that stuff and seize the moment. And
Yeah.
we've gotten very,
kind of
lax
set in our
about it.
ways. We feel
Yeah.
like we're the embodiment of St. Louis's personality, just kind of, you know,
Plodding along,
like slow and steady,
Yeah.
no, it's a big heavy ship, we're just kind of going along. And I wouldn't say that we're cutting edge and these younger businesses are doing great things too. And we think, St. Louis is big enough for all of them. The more
Yeah.
people celebrating the city, the better. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a bad thing. And we all kind of offer our own little take and style.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, well, but to
well,
answer your quote, go back to your question. I mean, I remember when we used to pay for print ads in the Riverfront Times,
oh
which is
yeah,
no longer around. So that's
yeah.
another big change. I mean, all these cultural
We've
things that
outlasted
we've depended on.
We've outlasted a lot of beloved local institutions and media institutions like the Riverfront Times. KDHX is a community radio station for
Yeah.
decades that was part of the fabric of the city, and they're no longer around. And a lot of some of that is because they're victims of the times too, and for whatever reasons. Um,
Yeah.
so we take nothing for granted. Always have to keep adapting, anticipating. And we do that with varying degrees of success depending on what it is. But I
Yeah.
mean, there's never a point at which we say, wow, we really made it, or we've figured
Right.
this out, because all of, things change in a heartbeat,
Mhm.
and we continue to make mistakes on a daily basis that
Mhm.
we have to learn from and pivot around. So, it's just like anything else, just world keeps on turning.
But it sounds
Yeah.
cliche, but it's really true. I mean, we always hold our love of the city as our guiding light. And so everything else, hopefully falls into place, has up until now.
Yeah.
And that really is the most important thing for any aspiring entrepreneur, is just keep in mind, is like, do what you love,
Hmm.
because nothing else you'll have your heart in for as long and as hard, because you're gonna need a lot of heart to
Hmm.
continue.
Yeah. And also thinking about like that longevity. And I mean, you brought up the point that you guys have outlasted a lot of other like local institutions. And that is something to truly be proud of. That is unfortunate that those other places have not made it. But it is really cool that you guys have lasted and are a staple in the community. I mean, I found you guys from a Reddit post. I love going to Reddit because if there is tea, if someone's like out there being a jerk, I'm gonna hear about it. If I
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna be able to find it there. And I think it was really cool how kind of quick that you guys were given that shout out and that spotlight. And definitely, I imagine the external viewpoint in the community is a part of that. But I also wonder if like your reputation has to do at all with your internal community. And so with that, I was kind of thinking of like how have you cultivated your internal like your staffing, your management philosophies? Like how have you kept the place running through like your internal team?
Your
Great
guess is as good
question.
as ours. But that would be a great question to pose to our employees and to see what they say because
Yeah.
we have no idea why they stick with us. I think that we're a
Oh,
really fun place to work. I think
Yeah.
it's definitely not your typical retail environment. Not
Yeah.
no day is ever the same. They have a lot of sense of ownership here. We give everybody a set of keys. Um, if they move on and pursue other things and no longer work here, we let them keep the keys and they can come and go and visit our shop cat Frankie anytime they want.
mhm.
We've even had to let some former employees go, and literally in every single case except one, we've had them back
Mhm.
for another stint, a second chance or a third.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're bad at being administrators.
Mhm.
So you kind of they're either with us or they're
Yeah.
not. And we're
And
kind of we don't see ourselves as managers or bosses really, probably to a fault,
Hmm.
because
but
in our view, they guide us as much as we guide them.
But yeah, as far as hiring, really, it's just a hunch and a feeling that we get when we're interacting with them and talking with them. Like, if we feel that this is gonna click, we'll bring them on. And really, our staff is as diverse as the city itself. We've had
I mean,
all types of people working with us, and a very low turnover, which we're really proud of. And we've had a great loyal team over the years, and we're still in touch with just about everyone who's ever been a part of this operation, and we really love them. They're like our family.
it really is like an extended family, as hokey as that sounds, but
Yeah.
it truly is because we spend so much time here together and we all feel kind of like that this is our spot, it's our place, and we empower every single one of our employees to use the space for
Yeah.
whatever they need.
Their
Like
their personal pursuits,
we have a photographer on staff. He's a professional freelance photographer, and he can use this shop for shoots unrelated to STL style,
Yeah.
or different private events, open mic nights if they want to do
We
something.
had one who's a drag performer, and so they would have drag performances and workshops, makeup workshops here after hours, um,
Yes.
and open mics,
And
poetry reading.
I think overall we're pretty fair-minded people. We're pretty easy to work with, even though we have our shticks that annoy the shit out of people who work with us every day anyway. But that's just personality. You spend enough time with people, and
Yeah.
they become your extended family, and that's kind of what this is. And really, without our crew, we would not be here, talking to you right now. It's just
Yeah.
we have had to learn, and it's been a real struggle sometimes, but to delegate some of the things that we don't have the bandwidth for,
Mhm.
or the knowledge about, or interest in, and we lean on them to kind of help balance us out, and vice versa. And I think
Yeah.
that it's that kind of like symbiosis that makes things work.
Yeah. I am struck by you talking about the wide range of employees and like folks that you've had and different kind of like skills and passions of your team. And I I asked kind of a related question to Greg Moore from Charlie Hustle. So I'm gonna ask something kind of similar of you guys, which is so you're in Middle America. Like that, if we're going to talk about the stereotypes of St. Louis or the stereotypes of Middle America in general, sometimes Middle America doesn't have the greatest reputation for being inclusive and accepting of all different kinds of people. And despite that, you guys have really thrived by, it sounds like, capitalizing on that.
Yes.
And has that always been a part of you? Is that the way you grew up? Is that, or is it a conscious choice that you're making? Again, I'm asking 17 different questions
No, it's
in one
okay.
here, but like, what, what's your
Well,
viewpoint on that?
great question. I'm glad you asked it. One of the things that makes cities cool, and different from any other kind of environment is that they're diverse places. They're much more progressive. They're clash of ideas and cultures and sights and sounds and flavors and everything else. And so those are the elements that drive this, our brand. And also we make no apologies about our politics. We also
Mhm.
take a lot of comfort, and I do think this is maybe a distinction between St. Louis and a lot of, some other places nearby. St. Louis has a very, very long tradition as a deep, 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 deep blue city, extremely dating back decades upon decades, and not only just the blue city, one of the bluest in the United States, per capita. It is a deeply,
Mhm.
deeply blue city, top 10 for sure in every election. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we know there's a gigantic audience of people here who think like we do, and they are thirsty to dispel the stereotypes and myths. They want
Mhm.
some way to promote their politics and their empowerment on their chests or on their bumper stickers. So that's a huge built-in market for us.
Yeah.
And so anytime there's an opportunity to riff on the right-wing Republicans like Josh Hawley or Donald Trump, we do that with a uniquely St. Louis flavor to it,
Yeah.
so that it gives it, we will do limited runs of different pro something t-shirts or anti something. And we do it with a punchy St. Louis theme.
Yeah, I mean, we're a decidedly St. Louis centric business, not Missouri. We don't
Right.
we don't show off
Yeah.
Missouri pride.
Actually, no offense,
To
we have nothing with Missouri on it because
Yeah.
really St. Louis's identity has never been connected to the state
St.
of
Louis
Missouri.
is older than the United States, much less
So,
Missouri.
I
So
mean, St. Louis,
it's always march to its own beat,
it's a
Yeah.
different thing, I think, than a Kansas City in that regard. It's St. Louis has always been at fierce odds with the state and has never been proud to be a Missouri city ever.
And
Yeah.
Never.
Missouri has always
And
kind of
Missouri's been kind of animus toward
kept
St.
us at
Louis
arm's length.
for a long time too. I mean, and so it's just one of those things. There is no love lost on Missouri in this city in particular. But
Well, I don't know if I
that
should say that,
I
but
mean, we like Kansas City. We like Kansas City. We can get into that later because we have plenty to say about the Chiefs thing and all that. But we don't want to hijack the interview. But but we think that we tapped into the St. Louis, that kind of fierce civic pride and the
Yeah.
anti-Missouri sentiment.
Yeah.
And we think that as a small business, this is like our platform. So
Yeah.
we can walk the walk. We can use this to promote
yeah.
our views or the popular sentiments about different things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and getting back to your question, I mean, that is really why we do what we do, because St. Louis deserves respect, because we have all the strikes against us already. The perception of high crime, depopulation, racial issues,
poverty,
being in Missouri,
vacancy, yeah,
all those things like kind of mark us off the cool list, but we're
Yeah.
here to uphold, what we know is true.
yeah, we just St. Louis needs a place at the table. That's why we love cities like Detroit and Pittsburgh and Baltimore, Cleveland, the ones that people have written off for
Yeah.
dead that were, 100 years ago, the
Yeah.
greatest cities in the country. And they still embody all the stuff, the essence, and they have a story and a flavor and a style,
Yeah.
just don't
Yeah.
find anywhere else.
Yeah. There's that St. Louis pride coming through once
Yeah.
again.
You know?
Okay, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because I don't think this was on my outline, but I'm so curious. So I'm going to turn the tables back to you two. One, because I'm just personally interested in what it's like to work with your sibling. I, for the first time, live in the same city as my older sister. She's 8 years older. And I moved to Louisville where she had moved a long time ago. This is the first time that we lived in the same city since we were, I think I was in junior high also, and that's when she went to college and moved away. And she started a nonprofit. I sat on the board of directors. Like, it's been this like interesting dynamic to figure out like one, how to live in the same city together, two, how to like work together in that capacity. And I talked to this woman, Lindsay. She is the CEO and co-founder of Plain Products, who also started a business with her sister. And I asked her a similar question because I was like, what is it like to work with your sister? Because on one hand, you've got this like shorthand of someone that you have grown up, you've known your whole life, and but you also know how to push their buttons in good ways and in not good ways. And I'm curious what it has been like for you guys as brothers being in business together and like pros, cons, good, bad, ugly, all of it.
It's a
Well,
blessing and a curse. It
Yeah.
is a blessing and a curse. And it may be different than most siblings, the fact that we're identical twins,
Yeah.
because we were womb mates before we
if
were.
the egg didn't split, we'd be the same person.
So,
So
for
that
better or worse, we are extensions of one another,
Yeah.
and we're constantly on the same wavelength about almost everything. Our minds work the same. We know what the other
Mhm.
one's thinking without having to say a word. Have random obscure similarities, like the some random line of a Lionel Richie song from 1983, and we're both singing the same line, and we haven't heard the song since then. Kind of thing like that. But it's very natural for us to kind of be in the same environment because that's all we've done. I mean, we had different careers in the beginning after college, and we were settling into real jobs. I went into hotels. I don't know how. He went into the bowling shirt retail, trade show industry. But we've always been very aligned. Our social spheres have been intertwined. We've had the same group of friends. We
Yeah.
have the same taste in girls, all growing up, we did things in sync, not because we had to or couldn't be separate. It's only because our interests were the same. We
Yeah.
just thought the same about things. So that's one thing. And that's a blessing too. You always have somebody to kind of share the load. There's no entering into a new environment or experience alone. You got someone else to kind of share it with you. That's also the curse though, is that you never develop the independence and competence to do everything or learn every
Mhm.
aspect of things,
Yeah.
because you've always been sharing with someone else oh, you can push it off. Oh, you know what? We'll both go through it. We can
Right.
both do it. So you
Right.
Yeah.
never
We've
really,
always been used to doing half the work. I mean, that's the bottom line. And
or pawning it off to like, no, I don't feel like doing this. I got to do this. You do that.
Yeah.
so the negative aspects of running a business are reinforced times two because we are both inclined to do, to like or not like the same things,
Right.
Mm.
to have a similar eye on something where we need someone with a different
Or
eye.
we both procrastinate on
Yeah.
something that's important,
Yeah.
and to the point where maybe it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of, shortcomings about being a twin, but the built-in advantage is one that
Yeah.
we could never, I mean, there's nothing that we wouldn't change it for the world, because we've got to admit that it has also been a leg up in getting,
Yeah,
pressed and
it's
buzzed.
a little bit novel, to have
Mhm.
identical twins, and also I just lost what I was going to say too, but it'll come back to
But
me.
yeah, I mean, like we're not just a
Oh
shot.
yeah,
It's
so
got a story behind it.
well, yeah, like
Twins.
as
Yeah.
important as the products we sell are, I think uh, the personalities that you'll meet here are equally as important and
Yeah.
bring people in. So and that's a big part of it. And that's why we have been really lucky with our staff that really reflects the feeling that we want to exude.
Yeah. Kind of
Yeah.
the passion, like the experience. You're not just walking in to get a t-shirt or a koozie. It's an experience that when you walk in here, you're never going to have another retail experience quite like this. And that
This
could
ain't
go
the mall.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
don't know. Did we answer your question?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right.
absolutely. I mean, I
Good.
could ask all like the nerdy, nitty-gritty questions of like, is one person doing the finances and another person's doing the purchasing, or are you both just like, can we hire someone else to do that?
well, I mean, over the years, we've kind of developed roles, but we do a little bit of everything, both of us. But Randy tends to handle more of the bigger custom accounts.
And the front facing kind of
Yeah,
communication type of
yeah,
things like that.
speaking and tours and stuff, and then I am really more vendor relations, and I kind of oversee the retail aspect.
Yeah,
Uh, and but we both kind of do everything.
There's a lot of overlap. In the beginning, before we had real staff, we did do everything. We did it all ourselves. So
yeah,
it's not something that is foreign to us, but we're kind of past that where we have to do all the heavy lifting, and now we
yeah.
bring in our crew to help balance us out.
Yeah. If you were talking to someone else that is interested in trying to find a way to like leverage a business, leverage a passion, leverage their experience to uplift their community through a business, the way you guys have done with STL Style House, what would your advice be to them?
Um, don't don't think you have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Mm,
Number
You
one.
do not have to have all the answers. I mean, we never worked off a business plan. We never followed a mold. We literally have been winging it since 2010, since we
And
built.
that
And
we're not advising people to deliberately defy
yeah,
plans or not make them. We're
yeah,
just saying you don't
well,
necessarily need it.
well, let's
And,
just say this. There were a lot of businesses with comprehensive business plans that were thrown out the window during COVID.
yeah,
So our on the fly kind of, the way we operate, it turned out to be a silver lining for us. We were able to adapt. We were able to think on our feet and do something different, and we weren't tied up with all, one way of doing things.
Right.
So that what saved us,
I would
really.
also
yeah,
think it's much with a small business, it is you're much more than just a product or service. It's relationships, personalities,
yeah,
your commitments to other local establishments and the community fabric. You have to walk the walk. People can see right through if you're just full of it. If you say one thing in your social media, but you're doing other things behind the scenes, or it just seems like it's phony or an act. People see right through that, and I think authenticity is the number one, best possible quality for a small business. It has to be true to itself
Mhm.
and what it's striving to do. And I think we've been good at doing that, I
And
think.
leverage your networks, because there's things about running a business that you're going to hate and that you're not going to want to do, or that you don't know how to do, but other people do, and they actually find joy and purpose in that. So if you can align with them, then you've got a great team.
Hmm.
yeah. What do you think gave you guys the confidence if you didn't have a business plan and you guys were just like, hey, we're just gonna do it? Like it started with someone asking you to make a t-shirt and you kind of had that side business going on. Like, where did that confidence come from for you guys to be like, I think we can do this. I think we can make a full business out of this?
It,
Well, one
it
I would say, like, one of the turning points was the New
New
York
York Times.
Times article. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So, we could go on. The t-shirts is kind of the known manifestation of our love and our passion. But prior to having this business, we were really involved with urban affairs and all kinds of civic issues,
Mhm.
and preservation issues. We helped save buildings that were endangered and things like that. We were really activists in the urban scene, and we got really involved with a group that was dedicated to revitalizing Rust Belt cities, old cities like St. Louis and Detroit and Cleveland,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so we would make friends with people in all these other cities, and we'd go to these conferences every year in these other has-been cities. and
Uh-huh.
that we loved.
And some great, I mean,
And
some
just
not has-been cities.
and
We went to
right,
Washington,
right. I mean,
D.C.
well, there, it's awesome, and
Yeah.
we found our people. We found people who think like we do. They see the same, the same advantages in cities that we love. And one of those people at a conference in Buffalo happened to be an intern at the New York Times, and
Mhm.
she thought that our story, this thing that we're doing on the side as a hobby,
Yeah.
making T-shirts for St. Louis, she
Yeah.
thought that was a cool story pitch. So she pitched it to her editor and said, can I can we run with this? These guys are doing something so cool in St. Louis and they're funny, blah blah blah." Anyway,
Right.
it made us feel good. And we thought never in a million years would anything come of that, but it was flattering.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, about a month later, we got a call from the New York Times from an editor asking if we're going to be available on such and such date. They are going to fly a reporter to spend the entire day with us for just for one day, getting to know the city through our point of view, through our eyes, the good, the
Yeah.
bad, the ugly, everything in between, what makes us, what inspires us. And so that's what we did. And it became, it was probably 6 months later that our friends in Brooklyn called us up and said, "Holy shit, you're on the front page of the New York Times." And it was the Sunday New York Times.
In
Nice.
2008, when people still read print
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
and
2008, and we did not have a shop yet. We had a little studio space in the city that we were printing shirts that we
we
for
probably
orders
filled one order a week or
from
something.
our website, and it was just fun. We used to do it on the side, but it captured the lens of the New York Times, and we were in the national section on a Sunday, which is more press than anyone could dream of,
Yeah.
and we literally could not handle the onslaught. We were bombarded
From
overnight.
all like people from all over the world emailing and placing orders from Korea and London and Iraq. We had,
Uh,
people uh,
every corner
soldiers
of the world.
deployed in
St.
and
Louisans were popping out of the woodwork to buy
and
our shirts.
and sharing stories too. It was just we really like plugged into something that it tugged at their heartstrings because we would get these really sweet emails about how they've been away for 40 years and St. Louis has no other city can fill that place in their heart. They love it, they miss it. And I mean it just gave us positive reinforcement.
So from that, we scrambled, and that's when we realized like this is not just a hobby for us. This is bigger, and we got to take it more seriously. And
Yeah.
that's when we started putting the pieces together, like, oh, maybe this can work. And even if it can't, we can at least say we tried.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
really, we're fully prepared to fold within a couple months. I mean, we had
Mhm.
no interest or not, and we had no knowledge of running a business or
Yeah.
No.
what to do or overhead and all the
And
anything.
we are not financial minded people at
Right.
Yeah.
all.
But it
Yeah.
just kind of took on a life of its own. And so we surround ourselves with people who want to surround themselves with us.
Yeah.
And this ethos here, and it just
Well,
kind of ran itself.
and I remember I was walking down the street in the Central West End that Sunday when the New York Times article came out, and there was a couple at a coffee house reading it, opened up to our page, and they had no idea that I was looking over their shoulder reading it. And I mean so even if everything fell apart after that, we could say we succeeded on some level.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
But and
it
of
was
course,
really
naturally, when you get media attention like that, it leads to more media attention and more, and
Mhm.
then everything kind of snowballs, and then
Yeah.
lo and behold, we're an established brand already,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we don't take it for granted though. I mean, we feel so lucky, and we're so like honored that the city likes us back, and but that's kind of like just the real deal.
I
That's
love that so much. And now I'm going to ask you to flip that love around with my favorite final question that I have for absolutely everyone, which is who's another business and or a leader that you see out there in the world that's doing things the right way? And it could be absolutely anyone, a boss, an employee, an old client of yours, someone you're a customer of, absolutely anyone that you think deserves a shout out.
we were thinking about this, and I mean, we maybe narrowed it down to four people
Great.
there are four people who we think are really inspiring.
Yeah.
Number one is a friend of ours named Amanda Clark, who founded a tour group, an offbeat kind of tour company with her friend called Renegade Tours that is no longer. It has been adopted by the Missouri History Museum, which now
Cool.
made it a real, bona fide
Yeah.
special program. And
Yeah.
they do tours, unique tours of the city, in walking tours, bus tours, bike tours, all kinds of really
Like
unique
under the surface kind
under
of
the
tours.
radar
Yeah.
tours,
And
exposing people to the real underbelly of the city. And I
Hmm.
think, and she's not even from St. Louis, she's
yeah,
from Tennessee, but she loves the city,
Yeah.
got to know it, and now makes that her life's work. And I think if you're talking about transforming lives and the way people
and
perceive the city,
changing perceptions, yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda's awesome. And we out of our space I do tours for her tour program.
Nice.
Yeah.
But she's one. Another one would be Natasha Barami
Okay.
um, from Gin World, and she has basically created herself kind of a hub of gin culture
Yeah.
from, based in St. Louis,
Yeah.
but really it kind of absorbs all the gin related culture from around the world, and combines it in here in St. Louis with her efforts. And she's brought diverse groups of people all over the world together to celebrate gin, and also eyes to St. Louis too, because
Yeah.
she hosts a lot of events here.
Yeah.
And he was actually our very first custom design project. We designed her
Cool.
logo way back in 2011, and she's still going strong too.
I
So
have to give a shout out to Bill Streeter too,
yeah,
because he is a local videographer, a good friend of ours who we've known for years, and he is an independent filmmaker, and he has really helped,
cultivate the local scene, the
yeah,
film scene.
music
He's
scene.
curated and produced like really awesome local events around local music and independent business.
One of the most popular things that he started was Lo-Fi Cherokee, which is uh it's what, like 15 different music videos filmed in one day in all the different storefronts along Cherokee Street. So it's really a showcase of local music and local independent business. And what it has become such such a force of its own over the years that when it started out, there was a few people in each venue. Now there's hundreds of people following.
Sadly, though, it's
Yeah,
over. After 12 years,
yeah.
he
He
decided he
he
didn't have
was
the passion, and
retiring
he's gonna hang it
with
up.
too much work,
But
but it
he isn't he but he does other incredible things, and he's just a really special guy. And lastly
Yeah.
is Vertrell Yates, Trell's Eye Photography, one of our employees, who is really he's a freelance photographer. That's his passion, that's his interest. And he is so awesome. He's a soft-spoken guy from rural Georgia originally. And he
Nice.
moved to St. Louis and became a very, very beloved and well-known entertainment photographer, mostly for like touring bands. So now
Cool.
he goes on tours all over the country with big name acts, and he's their kind of house photographer for those tours. And
Yeah.
he does it all right out of St. Louis, and he still comes to work here for every shift that he's scheduled. And he's just great. It's just great to see him kind of soar and kind of come into his own.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And Jeff and Rudy, this has been such a joy. I loved talking to both of you. I'm so
Me
excited to
too.
shine a spotlight on STL Style House. This has been so great.
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much for your
we're
interest.
totally flattered and honored to
Yeah.
be included, and
Yeah,
we really
we
appreciate it.
sincerely appreciate it.
One thing that we didn't
Yeah.
touch on so much,
Yeah.
I don't know if this matters, but like,
Yeah.
the way that we have a lot of different things going on in our business. We're not just dependent on walk-in traffic or
Yeah.
online
Or our
orders.
St. Louis stuff.
Right.
That's
I
not
mean,
what.
that's kind of our face to the world, our shop.
Right.
But really, our bread and butter and what pays the bills is like our custom work and
Mm.
collaborations with local institutions, and everything from bands to Washington University, St. Louis Public Radio, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Then we also, a lot of our branded merchandise that we've developed, like, is sold in about probably 15 different retail stores around the metro. So that's another, aspect of it. And then we do a lot of public speaking and tours for school groups and relocation companies, bringing prospective new
Employee,
talent
new hire.
to St. Louis. And
Yeah.
so there's all kinds of ways that we're trying to help lift up St. Louis's image.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of special events and music and festivals right here in our storefront. So just
Yeah.
keeping it alive.
Yep.
Where would you just send people to your website to find out more or to contact you if they want to partner with you?
Sure. Our
Yeah.
website is probably the best place to go for
Okay.
everything. But we also are
Yeah.
on Facebook, we're on Instagram,
Yeah.
uh, and all the the go-to channels. But
Yeah.
our website is probably the
Yeah.
most cohesive
Which
place.
reminds me, I have to update some things on our events page.
Thank you so much to every single person that's listened, every single person that has told someone else about it, that has shared an episode, that has sent a blog post to someone else to read, that shares on social media, that responds back to me, that engages and lets me know what they think and what they're hearing. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed through the Patreon. These subscriptions are what fund the project and keep it going. There's so many different tiers available starting at $1 and $2 a month, and each tier gets you access to different kinds of things. So, for example, the $2 a month listener tier gets you access to interviews on Thursdays, so early access to the audio and video versions of interviews that are out every Thursday, typically in the evening time. Your $3 a month member tier adds on these weekly between the interview series on Mondays. That's what I gave a little sneak peek. There are some early examples of those between the interviews that were posted on the main feed so that folks could kind of get a lay of the land and what's behind the motivation for this project. Those reflection episodes are still going every Monday, and the folks in that member tier are still have access to those things. The VIP tier has access to merch. I really do my best to give back to those that are joining. So check the show notes for the link to the Patreon. There's a lot there. If you're interested in any of the behind the scenes of like how this project gets made from the back end, like if you are someone who is interested in starting anything that looks similar to this, whatever your topic is, like I am really open, just like I'm asking these folks that I'm interviewing about like the mistakes that they made. I do my best to be very open about the mistakes and the lessons learned that I made, plus the resources that really helped me, the people that I'm looking up to. Like I yeah, why not share my experience there? So that's all available there. And just in general, I truly want to hear from you. So please message me on Instagram, message me on the Patreon, leave me a review that tells me what you think of it. Email me your thoughts and your suggestions, including the things that you don't like. I got tough skin, people. You can tell me the things that I need to improve upon. I am very open about early days, early stage, that I this entire project and almost everything that goes into it is brand spanking new to me. And I am learning, not just from these leaders that I'm interviewing, but I'm learning about the technical side of things. I'm learning about social media. I'm learning about advertising. Like, I'm learning about all of these types of things, and I am happy to share what I have learned as well. And so I want your feedback. I want the things that I'm not talking about that you want to hear about that is within this Capitalism for Good space. So reach out to me. I want to hear from you. I truly do. Send me your thoughts and I'll do your research. Like I said, I really am listening and kind of creeping to see where people are coming from, where you're located, what your interests are. And so if there's an industry or an interest of yours that I haven't hit on that you are really interested, like, send me your thoughts. If you have a question that is related to this Capitalism for Good project, I'll do the research here. So send them on over. I'm already doing it. I might as well do something that fits what you're asking for and what you're looking for. Finally, my last little plug and shout out here is if you are interested in working together to build better community, check out the business website for CFG. It's at capitalism-for-good.com. There's also a link down in the show notes. And whether you are interested in starting or expanding a community give back initiative with your company, if you want to plan a volunteer day and you don't want someone that's already your full-time employee taking away from their normal job to do it, if you're looking for a charity partner within a specific space or that aligns cleanly with your company values and your philosophy, or if you want to perhaps talk about some education around the value of community partnerships and what that can add to your business if done well and done efficiently and effectively, I would love to help. So I'd be happy to get on a phone call, see how CFG can help you with your community goals. Once again, would love to hear from you if you've got thoughts, needs, questions, interest anywhere within that space. I truly believe that we are stronger when we work together and that we can truly make a really impactful, positive future if we just put all our brains and our skills together and leverage those things to build better community. So, all right. That's enough. Let's go leave this place better than we found it.